Welcome to The Catholic Couch, the official podcast of the Catholic Counseling Institute, where we integrate the beauty of the Catholic faith with modern psychology to give you real tools for real life. I'm Amber Pilkington, Catholic therapist, wife, mother, and woman who always gets a lump in her throat when she sees the palms laid out at church like a welcome mat for a king. Today is Palm Sunday, the doorway into the holiest week of the year. It's a day of contrast. There's joy and dread, celebration and sorrow, all woven together like palms into a cross. If you're a woman who feels deeply, who's sensitive to mood shifts in others, who struggles with anticipatory grief and emotional whiplash, this day may feel especially difficult. In today's episode, we're going to walk slowly through the streets of Jerusalem with Jesus. We'll explore why he chose a donkey and what that says about spiritual leadership and emotional safety. How secure attachment allows us to love even when others disappoint. What Palm Sunday reveals about staying grounded in relationships when praise can quickly turn to rejection. How to respond to God's love without falling into perfectionism or people-pleasing. And how your feminine heart isn't a burden in Holy Week. It's a lens for healing. I'll also give you a free, printable Holy Week journaling guide for Catholic women, filled with scriptures, grounding practices, and quotes from St. John Paul on the dignity and vocation of women to help you live Holy Week through the feminine genius. Phew! We've got quite an episode, ladies, so let's go! Jesus enters Jerusalem riding a donkey, not a war horse, not a chariot, but a donkey. To us, that may seem quaint, but in Jewish tradition, this is loaded with meaning. Those who came to conquer rode horses, kings who came in peace rode donkeys. He's saying, I'm not here to dominate, I'm here to redeem. But here's the part I want to think about for a moment. Jesus knew what was coming. He knew the crowd that cried Hosanna would shout crucify him 5 days later. He knew the same people laying down cloaks would abandon him when things got dangerous. And yet, he came on a donkey, exposed, unarmed, emotionally available. Our theology of the body insight here is that the gift of self is always a risk. I tell my clients frequently that relationships involve risks worth taking. But Christ shows us that love, true, mature, integrated love, doesn't withhold just because rejection is possible. This is not emotional recklessness. This is rooted, secure, sacrificial love. Our attachment reflection here is that Jesus models what we call a securely attached nervous system. His emotional posture is not reactive to the crowd's instability. He doesn't try to manipulate or manage how others see him. He stays centered in his identity as the beloved son. Because he's so securely attached to the Father, he can stay grounded even in unstable human relationships. When praise feels like a trap, let's talk about what nobody says out loud. Sometimes praise can feel just as scary as criticism. If you've ever been a girl who's been celebrated 1 minute and forgotten the next, if you grew up walking on eggshells, never sure when love would be taken away. If you ever felt like affection came with strings or approval came at a price, then the crowd's cheering might make you feel more nervous than comforted. Our brains are meaning makers. When past experiences have taught us that attention is unstable or conditional, our body interprets praise as pressure. You may even find yourself bracing, thinking, how long until I let them down? This shows up in adult life all the time. A friend compliments you and you immediately think, if she only knew the real me. You get recognized at work and spiral into imposter syndrome. Your spouse expresses love and your gut clenches instead of softening. You're not broken, sister. You're reacting from memory. But Jesus gives us a new sin template. He receives both praise and rejection equally, not because he's detached, but because he's deeply anchored. His security doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from the Father's gaze. I do not accept glory from men. John 5:41. That's not cold indifferent. It's peaceful confidence. He knows whose love matters. Peter's panic and the wound of disconnection. Let's talk about Peter. He's one of the most relatable figures in all of Scripture, and it has a very special place for us Catholics. Peter's the friend who talks big, loves hard, and gets scared fast. At the Last Supper, he makes a bold promise. Even if everyone else falls away, I will never fall away. And Jesus tells him, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And Peter does. But let's look deeper. Peter doesn't stop loving Jesus. He just doesn't know how to love him when fear took over. Attachment theory teaches us that in moments of relational threat, especially when we're overwhelmed, our attachment system activates defensively. For someone like Peter, who likely had an insecure, anxious attachment pattern that was being activated in that moment, that fear translated into self-protection. He loved Jesus, but he was not yet emotionally mature enough to stay close through danger. What changes everything is the look. The Lord turned and looked at Peter, not with anger, not with disappointment, but with love. We know that this look wasn't just a seeing of the outside, of the external. We know Peter likely felt this look as a deep, piercing glance into his innermost world. I bet Peter had a profound experience of being seen and being loved, and it healed him. A neuropsychology note here is that eye contact with someone who's regulated and safe activates calming pathways in the brain. It can help reset a flooded system. This is why your partner's calm gaze matters. This is what we hope to provide as therapists in moments of dysregulation. This is why Mary's eyes at the foot of the cross matter. Peter collapses in grief, not because he's rejected, but because he's loved. And that love becomes the foundation of restoration, of reconciliation, of walking towards the relationship with Jesus to repair. This Holy Week, where is Jesus looking at you with the same gaze? Not the, I told you so, but the, I still choose you. I still love you. Safe love in an unsafe world. Palm Sunday is not just the story of fickle crowds and a humble king. It's a mirror for our hearts. Every woman listening knows what it's like to love people who are unstable or uncertain or unpredictable. To try to stay open when your gut shuts down, to offer affection while wondering if it's safe. Jesus shows us how to live open-hearted in a world that isn't always safe, without becoming hardened or performative. He emptied himself. Philippians 2:7. This is what secure love does. It gives, not unsafely, not for approval, not to avoid rejection, but because it's safe enough to be poured out. You were made for that kind of love. And through the grace of the sacraments, the healing of memory and our nervous system, and the truth of Christ's gaze, you can grow in that kind of love. Even if you've been betrayed, even if your story is full of stops and starts, even if Holy Week finds you tired, triggered, and unsure, he still rides in for you. So if you wave your palms this Sunday, ask yourself, can I let myself feel joy, even knowing grief is coming? Can I let myself be loved, even when I feel unworthy? Can I stay open, even when I'm afraid? Jesus didn't ride in to be understood. He rode in to be gift of self. He didn't protect himself from pain. He anchored himself in love, and he invites you to do the same. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to stay close. If you want to take this further, I created a special resource just for you, the Holy Week Journaling Guide for Catholic Women, and it includes daily reflection prompts from Scripture and theology of the body, simple grounding techniques for emotional overwhelm, quotes from Mulieris Dignitatem and the saints, and a printable Resurrection Anchor worksheet. This is all free with a link in the description. If you want more content on Holy Week, be sure to check out our Stations of the Cross episode. This is a beautiful week in our church. For me, it feels like everything slows down a little bit. I love the use of physical signs and symbols. The sensual nature of our church comes alive with palms and holy water and incense. It's a time that the veil between heaven and earth is a little more thin and grace is abundant. And so it's a beautiful time to do some emotional and psychological self-reflection. I hope this has been helpful to you. I pray you have a blessed Holy Week. And remember, I'll always leave a place for you on the Catholic couch.